Good morning. This is the second part of a critique series of Raila Odinga. And most people have told me that this is not the right time for this kind of stuff. But I happen not to agree. In politics, there is never a right time for anything. This is not to extract any political bonga points for anything. I'm not running for any elective office. I'm not a member of the ODM. In fact, that is the benefit that I have to be this critical. Because if I was in ODM, I would not be allowed to present some of these views that are actually known by people. And for one reason or another, they just don't want to discuss them. But I'm not being overtly malicious. I'm not discussing stuff from utopia. I am telling you things that you also know. But for one reason or another, do not want to discuss, right? I'm just bold enough to come out with them. ODM as a party under Raila Odinga has been a violent enterprise. It has been a violent extortionist business. Remember, I told you that ODM is owned by one person, personified in three. It's like the Trinity, you know. The owners of ODM is Raila Odinga, Ida Odinga, and their children. Everybody else in that party rigmarole is just a follower. Yeah. Decisions are made at home and given to people, a few henchmen, to then transmit to the party followers, who, for some very strange reason, followed Raila's word without questioning. This is what I am not. I will question what I'm expected to follow before I decide whether to follow it or not. ODM has been a very violent party. You can see this, the violence in Kasipul Kabondo in the recent past, the upcoming by-election, where you see Gladys Wanga and Opondo Kaluma come and literally twist the electorate that ODM is the best. In political campaigns, that is what you need to do, is to endear to the population. You need to endear yourself to the people, not twist them to vote for you. The little Ngondo Were was a Raila henchman, you know. Raila has had this violent political philosophy that all dissentient voices had to be crushed, and people have died. Raphael Tuju's home was torched when clearly he was the best performing Luo MP in Luo history, better than Raila himself in Kibra. But Baba did not want that, so he vanquished Tuju. Shemo Chuada did very well in Rangwe back then. He was vanquished. So these are some of the examples that I have on top of my head right now that make ODM a very distasteful political vehicle, in my view. In fact, right now we have people like Adoinyang in Kisumu. These were known violent operatives of Raila Odinga, who have now risen to MCA in the County Assembly of Kisumu. And for political expediency, you think this is a good thing when you promote political thugs to positions of leadership. You see, when you give them political positions as a reward for their violent behavior, you send a message. Kwa Kiswahili tunasema ODM kilikuwa ni chama cha ubabe chini ya Mheshimiwa Raila Odinga. Ni chama ambacho kama ulikuwa huelewani au hukubaliani na matakwa ya mwenye chama, unafukuzwa, unapigwa au unauliwa. Ndio kwa maana sasa tunasema basi, kama ilikuwa hivyo, tatizo lilikuwa ni nini? Au tatizo lilikuwa ni nani? Kwa maoni yangu mimi, tatizo ilikuwa ni Raila Odinga na sera zake za ubinafsi. Sijui kama tunaelewana mpaka hapo. I'm trying to do this in Kiswahili as well so that my friends in Tanzania can also follow this conversation. The violent political philosophy of Raila Odinga earned him a feigned popularity. He became very popular in Luo Nyanza not because he was the best political candidate, but because very many other dissenting voices were scared to come out. You see, that is not absolute in mathematical terms. When you take a sample for statistical analysis, you must have a margin of error. In Raila's political philosophy, there was never any margin of error, especially in Luo Nyanza. He believed that it was only him and him alone. And if you're not for him and with him, then he would vanquish you. People then refer to the laws of power to say, vanquish your enemies. That is theoretical. Is it democratic? As the D in the name of the party denotes. So that political violence is something I do not forgive Raila Odinga for. I know people who have been maimed for this. I know people who have lost property for this. I know people who have lost their lives for this. The marauding ODM gangs still exist. They exist in Migori, they exist in Homa Bay, they were domiciled in Kasipul, Kabondo, they exist in Kisumu, the slums of Obunga and Nyalenda, they exist in Siaya. These guys have grown up to my age now. That is why you see that there's a variable in the ODM violence these days. It is not as violent as it used to be. What you saw in Kasipul, Kabondo was not as bad as it was during our days. It was horrible. These ODM goons would come to your home and burn your house, and burn your mother's house, and burn your brother's houses. That is forceful displacement of persons. It's one of the crimes that makes you eligible as a suspect in the ICC. People don't want to hear this, but that is the truth. There are people who are displaced by ODM violence. Yeah? And make no mistake, Raila sanctioned this. And actually, those are some of the instances where Raila spent his personal money. I once saw an instance where Raila sent 100,000 to somebody called Mada. Mada is a grown-up guy. We grew up together in the slums in Nyalenda in Kisumu. He sent him 100,000. And that was to ensure that Kikuyus are kicked out of Kisumu. I saw that M-Pesa message. And I heard Mada speak to Raila on speaker. So some of these things are things I have experienced. I'm not speaking out of malice, I'm speaking out of truth. That was a very violent political philosophy. The other aspect of ODM that I would juxtapose to this violence is extortion. Raila never paid any bills. People paid bills for him. If he came to your constituency, the bill would be on you. So there was ever nothing for free. So don't get it twisted that Raila had favorite candidates. Those favorite candidates are people who paid him the most. Don't think Joho was seconded to the broad-based government for free. He paid for it. It costed him money. Regardless of the deal we know he does. His main money train, that is known. Raila sidestepped that. He put his eye on the money. There are people who have funded Raila Odinga over time. Some of them are Kikuyu barons. The same people he comes to tell us in Kisumu that we should fight are the same people who give him political money, are the same people who have given birth to women his sons have gotten married to. Raila's sons have married Kikuyu women. Many people think this is not true. It is. So essentially, Kikuyus should be our in-laws. Not should be, are our in-laws. In-laws don't fight in our African context. So why does Raila Odinga pit us against Kikuyus in every electoral cycle? And he plants this very politely into our psychology. Yet in his home state, he has Kikuyu women as daughters-in-law. You see the pretense? That is what I'm talking about. Extortion in ODM runs through the rank and file. Let's start with Raila Odinga himself. To become an MP with an ODM ticket, you not only needed popularity, but you needed money to buy that ticket. I participated in one extortion scheme, and I will discuss it. I have a former MP in Luwa Nyanza, Homa Bay County, who's a very good friend of mine. When he wanted to run for ODM, we met Raila in Nairobi. Of course, after paying for it. The Silas Joka Kimbas and all those people, Oduoro Mwen and all those people around Raila, you pay them to meet the old man. Meeting Raila is not for free. You would never meet him for free. No way. Unless you're very lucky or unless there's something in it for him. So if you wanted to meet Raila an ordinary day, it would cost you about $1 million or $2 million. You'd pay these guys to organize that meeting for you. So as an MP, we did that with my friend who was aspiring. We met Raila Odinga, and he told us this in Kijaluo, uwothonade. In his parlance, hiyo inamaanisha mmetembeaje. Kwa lugha zetu hapa Kenya, umetembeaje maana yake ni kwamba una hela ngapi, una shilingi ngapi. How did you come? How did you come means how much do you have? And he used to call $1 million kedi. Kedi in Kijaluo is a stick. Omera, uwothonade, ungiketedi. It's like, guys, how are you? How did you arrive? How many sticks do you have? It's like, how many millions do you have? So my friend says he has 5 sticks. That is 5 million. And then he laughs. And he drinks his tea and turns to the television. And you're basically seated at the edges of your seat waiting for that response, because That response means you're getting an ODM ticket or not, you're going to parliament or not. And then he laughs and says, Amera doguru bed ketia beach gibeda par. Uter the main pain, Runda. He was living in Runda then. So what he said was, go back and look for 10 sticks and take those 10 sticks to the mother of the nation. The mother of the nation is Raila Odinga. So we left his office. My friend looked for another 5 million, made it 10 million. Again, it costed us another extra million to have that meeting arranged for Runda. It happened, and we took 10 million in cash. Spoke to Raila on the veranda. He was having tea with very many other people. And he noticed my friend and called one of his guys and took the bag. He watched that bag being taken. And then we were ushered into the sitting room where Ida was sitting with 2 other women. And we gave this money to Ida in a shopping bag. That is 10 million shillings. So then we left and came back to campaign. Nearing the ODM nominations, it was announced that now candidates should go and pick the party tickets. Again, we came back to Nairobi. And we got to Orange House. My friend's opponent was there as well. He had received the ticket. And to cut the long story short, my friend did not get the party ticket. There was no way he could get his money back. He tried to reach out to Raila, found him on phone, spoke to him on speaker, and asked that, hey, I have lost the ticket, what do we do? He said, yeah, we thought about it and decided that let your opponent run, we'll look for something else for you. The guy said, okay, Baba, but now do I go back home and get that 10 million? And he said, which 10 million? What are you talking about? And disconnected the phone. I experienced this live, ladies and gentlemen, and it is true. And if you talk to very many other people who lost ODM tickets, they will tell you a similar story. The number never went through after that, and 10 million was gone. My friend slid into a slight depression. Lost some of his properties on Ngong Road because he'd taken a bank loan. And when we tried to make inroads with all these ODM people to now get that position that Baba had talked about, people laughed at him and said, Ijal woman Ademi, you have got 10 million. That means, what kind of Luo are you to cry over 10 million shillings? What is 10 million? That is how the extortion in ODM works. The person who is telling you this is Philip Etale, the communications director of ODM, who did not even have a university degree then, who could not afford 10 million in cash. But you see, that is how violent and extortionist ODM was. People might want to exonerate Raila from this nitty-gritty, but when you apply a multiplier effect, a multiplying quotient to this, it is 10 million per constituency times over 100 constituencies that fails ODM candidates. That is a lot of money. And out of 100, probably 70 have been cheated of their money. And there's nothing you can do. You handed over this amount in cash. It is an illegal transaction. You cannot go to the police. And if you make a mistake of trying to follow up, then you are muzzled politically forever. My friend remained in the cold, in the political cold, for over 20 years. He later on jumped ship, joined the opposite side, and got a parastatal appointment, of which he could receive requests from guess who for money or use of a parastatal chopper, and he obliged. Yeah. So these are some of the issues that leads me to discuss the final thing, joining the broad-based government. The handshake with Uhuru. That was a typical caste transaction. I cannot be convinced that Raila Odinga, out of his love for the country and out of his desire to see a peaceful Kenya and out of his desire to promote democracy, he shook hands with Uhuru. It's bullshit. It's crap. Huo ni uongo. Tulichoona pale, ndugu zangu, ni mwisho wa biashara. Biashara ukishafanyika, kwa kawaida yetu sisi wa Afrika, kwa mahesabu za karibu tunasalimiana. Kusalimiana ni kuleta uwiano. Kusalimiana ni kuleta umoja wa fikira. Kusalimiana ni kusema asante, kushukuru. Raila alikuwa anashukuru Uhuru kwa hela aliyopewa na nafasi serikalini ya watu wake. Na hao watu wanaopewa nafasi serikalini wanapewa nafasi hizo wakielewa ya kwamba mzee akipiga simu utatii. So don't think Wandai and Joho and Bade are swimming in money. What you see them swimming in is a fraction of what Raila was swimming in. This decision to betray the struggle, Gen Z protest, join the broad-based government, it was a consequence of a Gen Z miscalculation. You see, when people kept asking who the leader is of the Gen Z protest, and the Gen Z kind of overlooked it because they thought that is not important. They thought that let us remove Ruto first, then we will work about who the leader is. Raila took advantage of that vacuum. Every protest must have a leadership. Every protest must have its KPIs. Every protest must have its deliverables. Every protest needs a time span of existence to satisfy defined objectives. The Gen Z didn't think that far. Raila took advantage, negotiated a cash bargain, and joined the broad-based government. It was never to pacify the country. You see, there are all these convenient political semantics that ODM throws at the world. You know, Raila is a peacemaker. He wanted to avert bloodshed. He did this for the benefit of the country. No. He did that to make money for himself. Ruto paid him to join the broad-based government. It was never for free. It was a cash moment and positions. And those positions would accrue fiscal benefit to him. The dilemma Ruto is left with now is how will he handle these guys? How will he handle these troops without the person he bargained with? They can tell him that, look, we don't know you. You didn't give us anything, so we are bolting off. That would spell trouble. Or, without their leader, he can muscle them into the fold and ask them to dissolve ODM and join UDA. Nobody would stand firmly against that, except a few voices who actually are not political heavyweights. But if there is buy into the Gen Z psyche could cause political problems. So, in summation, I would say that Raila has lived his life. He has done what he did the best way he knew how. It was good for him to rest. His health was not good. The people around him knew this, but still pushed him. It is that greed for extortion that pushed these people to push Raila. By these people, I mean Raila Odinga. She's a matriarch behind all these moves. The guy was literally limping around, but he's still being pushed to go to press conferences. He was a sick man. And then, curious enough, Raila Odinga was never in Kerala with her husband, with her very sick husband. She was in Nairobi organizing by-elections in Kasipul Kabondo with Gladys Wanga and promoting paying off goons and stuff. That is very curious. It is not the responsibility of Rosemary Odinga to be at her father's sickbed and her mother is in Nairobi lounging around. She should have been in Kerala. She wasn't. Also look at the choice of hospital. Raila ended up at an Ayurvedic clinic. I do understand that alternative medicine is sometimes preferred to conventional medicine. But the decision to move from London to India was very curious, right? Yeah. Why didn't Wamala Kijana go to India? Why did Raila Odinga go to India? He was alone with his bodyguard. I'm sure you've seen the clips flying around. His wife was not there. It was only his daughter. The Magumo tree has fallen. In my village we say that every banana tree, however succulent, dries in the end. Raila Odinga has dried. With a very checkered legacy at the end. But then also if you look at all the heroes that we know, they hardly ever end well. I think it's a mystery that probably God puts away from us. Strong men ultimately fall for the feeblest mistakes of all. Solomon, the wisest of the wisest. Samson, the strongest of the strongest. David, the best of the best friends of God. Muammar Gaddafi, the reformists of all, believed in a unified Africa. Now we have Raila Odinga. Falls with the tag of betrayal. Falls with the tag of political merchant. Falls with the tag of a horse trader. What a man, what a life, what a political animal. ODM is definitely going to disintegrate. I told you that Raila was never interested in the propagation of his political psychology. The vampire sitting at State House will vanquish ODM now. He will buy off 70% of it. The electorate will rebel against that buyout, and the field will be open for horse trading again. Just that the kingpin will not be there to benefit this time. Raila Odinga will not control ODM anymore. Her children will not be in control anymore. Luo Nyanza can finally breathe. This is a time for new dispensation. This is a time for us to reclaim our lost legacy. This is a time to craft our new political future. I wish everybody well. Over and out.